Fran Lab. What is a fond memory from making the Squawk Box? Nothing in particular. I mean, it's just a process. I did a video about it. It was just a fun making project. There wasn't anything particularly challenging about it. I think that doing the artwork was probably the most challenging thing. And it was just basic construction techniques, laminated it on cardboard. Basically, I just reverse engineered the processes that I thought that they would have likely used in making the prop just from looking at high-res photos of it, of the prop in the film, and just kind of figured out these are the materials that they used. They used that vinyl brushed fake stainless steel film to cover over the logo, because I noticed that they did cover it over with the tape rather than burnishing, you know, the graphics off and like polishing up the metal underneath. They just overlaid it. So it was done quick and dirty. It was just done in a prop department. It's like, okay, that's the way I'm going to do the reproduction. So I really just tried to make the reproduction prop as faithful to the one used in the movie as I could, including details like the thickness of the cardboard that I mounted the artwork on, and you know, stuff like that. What was the biggest historical error in the movie Apollo 13? Historical? I don't know about historical error. Technical errors. They took liberties. You know, the big frustration I have with some of the liberties they took were the workarounds, like in the control room set that they built. It was really highly detailed, except for the fact that the number counters on each of the stations use these. These are Dialco incandescent 7-segment displays. They use these types of displays on the panels rather than the original projection displays that were the IE type projection displays, which were in the original control room and still are. The only reason I thought that they decided to use the Dialco incandescent 7-segment displays for all the stuff was that it was very common, institutionalized into the film industry from the 80s. That whenever you needed a 7-segment display in a movie, whether it was Back to the Future or War Games or you name the sci-fi film with any kind of like 7-segment display, it was Dialco incandescent 7-segment displays because they were bright. You could really crank up and change the brightness, you know, just with a Variac, and they were readily available, and they could have them in big sizes, and they just used them. But they didn't have them in the original control rooms. The original mission control was all projection displays. It was all projection displays. But for shooting film, under film lighting and everything, they would have just been too dim. They would have been really dim. And so they needed a really, really bright display, so they took liberties with that. As with the reproduction disky that they had in the command module and the lunar module, where they used a green LED display instead of trying to reproduce the electroluminescent display. Stuff like that. It's all about compromises in making films. It can never be perfect. Yeah, they filmed the engine bells but didn't have their outer layer anymore. Well, that was because it was a model. They built a scale model for the liftoff sequence, and the model they built was based on photographs of the engines in the test stand. And because they had high-resolution photos of the array of 5 engines on the test stand that they used for firing, and they reproduced that in the model. But that's not the way the Saturn V flew. The Saturn V, it was all jacketed. It was thermal blankets over the whole thing, so it was all encased. It didn't look like that. You didn't see all the stuff. But of course, you see, with the blankets on, it doesn't look as cool. You know, it looks more Saturn V-y if you see all the stuff, all the piping and everything. But it was all covered in real life. So yeah, there were technical shortcomings. Yeah, and of course the script, making them argue and yell at each other. Yeah, none of that happened. They did not yell at each other. You can read the book Lost Moon Jim Lovell. There's no arguing in there. They were all military pilots. There was no yelling, no screaming. It was all orderly. It was all decorum. There was no drama. Was no drama. But then it would have been a boring movie, right? IBM System 360 mainframes, yes, 5 of them. 5. Yeah, I did a video about that. If you go in my channel and the big boards at Mission Control, and I talk about that. Yeah, the RTCC, Real-Time Computer Complex. 5 IBM System 360 computers. That was a lot of muscle back then. A lot. But yeah, you can look at that video. I put a lot of info in that one. A lot. What is the point of this channel? Thank you, Duck22. What is the point of this channel? Literally just found it a half an hour ago. What can I expect to learn here? Today, not much. This is Sunday. This is a live stream. We're hanging out. This is the social part of the week where we just hang out, talk about stuff. People get to chat in the chat, throw ideas out there, talk about things. We're probably not going to learn a lot today. That's where I work. In the lab. Go berserk. In my lab. That's where I work.